Going to the mall. I'm like a mall rat. I hate to interrupt this leisurely trip to the shopping mall, but I want to talk about something that's pretty important here, especially to those who are wheelchair users or those with mobility issues. You see there that little blue sign that says "By permit only"? Well, if you're not one of the people that holds one of those permits, quit parking in those spots. I don't know how many times I've tried to go somewhere that has limited accessible parking, and the space is filled up with somebody either idling in their car or they've left their vehicle and they don't have a parking permit.
Do you have an accessible parking permit?
No.
So why are you parked in this space?
Something we see all too often are situations like this, where someone has decided that the accessible parking spot was the easiest place for them to park and, well, closest to the door. And so they just pull right in there with zero regard for people who need to use those spots. And if you do need to use those spots, just talk to your doctor or other healthcare provider and they'll fill out the simple form and you can get one of those accessible parking permits very easily. So just quit being so lazy.
This is always an ordeal because he's got to put his fancy driving gloves on for his chair. And he's got his man's bag to carry his wallet and keys.
I don't know why she makes fun of me about that.
It's not bad. It's necessary. Oh, and the necessity, the cup holder, which actually was for a stroller, so that he can carry his coffee.
It's an important feature.
We can keep a lot of stuff in our little trunk. There we go. There's the chair. Clips into place. It's really sunny.
Okay. Cup holder. Purse. Keys.
Yeah, that'd be bad. Trusty cup holder. We really need to be early for things so we're not always running about 10 minutes late.
That's what people expect of us.
Well, it's a procedure with the chair. All right.
Roll.
Literally. Let's roll. This door gets stuck. You're gonna have to pull it here. It's locked?
Yeah.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Hudson's Bay. It's not locked. You just can't open it from the outside. That's not very practical.
My wife is making me go soap shopping with her. It's terrible. Fun little fact, If you are opening the door for someone using a wheelchair, there is a right way and a wrong way to do it. See, in this picture, you'll see that Joy is standing on the edge of the door with her arm stretched out, and she's opening the door for me. The problem is I can't get my wheelchair past her because she's partly in the doorway. In this next photo, what you'll see is Joy standing on the other side of the door, and she's holding the door open for me, but she's not in any way in the door. That's the right way to open a door for someone in a wheelchair. And a lot of times people have good intentions, but they don't quite see how I can't fit through the door if you're standing halfway in the door.
Watch for the cup holder. And done.
Okay, so just back out of the mall. I always park outside of the bay because it's the easiest entrance to get in and out of. Wow, there's a guy almost gonna hit our car. Anyway, it's the easiest entrance to get in and out of, except when the wheelchair button doesn't open the door. So on going in, I couldn't get in, so Joy had to open the door for me. But then coming out, the final exit door doesn't open with the push of the button. So Joy felt the need to summon the store manager to let him know, because honestly this has been like this since Christmas and it's like February. So the manager of the store showed us the handy little piece of Velcro that they have as a solution to fix their door, as opposed to just fixing the door. But on a side note, I feel like the bay is on its way under any time now. Anyway, it feels a bit like a discount store in there. So anyway, that's really annoying for people that actually do need, you know, those buttons to work. They're not just there for people who are too lazy to open the door.
So we'll see in a couple weeks if it is fixed. He said he would check with their maintenance guy and see if there was a solution other than Velcro holding the door in the open position for the button to work. And now he's getting into the popcorn.
Double caramel.
Okay, so here we are 2 weeks later, checking to see if this has... Oh, way to go. Except, still the Velcro. Not the best solution, but hey, at least it worked this time.
Just sitting in the car again, waiting for Joy. This time it is Home Depot, and we're getting light bulbs and maybe hand sanitizer if they happen to have some. Not really falling for the panic around hand sanitizer, but we were in Shoppers Drug Mart earlier today and they don't have any. So if they have some in here, maybe we'll get some. For stores like this, if it's just a quick trip in and out, I don't often go. I'll just wait in the car. It's kind of a pain to get the wheelchair out just for, you know, a 5-minute trip in to buy light bulbs and hand sanitizer. So I just wait in the car for Joy. But if we're going to be a little bit longer, maybe, you know, 10 minutes, half an hour, whatever, we'll get the wheelchair out and I will go in. Over the last 20 years, sort of my mobility has been on a bit of a decline, I should say. High school was challenging because I had just had a few surgeries, and so I was kind of in rebuilding mode then. From the time I would say I was 16 until the time I was about 35, I had pretty good mobility, never really used a wheelchair much, and I avoided a lot of walking. I just don't do things that require a ton of walking. But when I turned about 35, I started to notice bigger changes in my mobility. Um, just feeling a lot more stiff and not able to move as much. And my left side feels a bit weaker than it used to. I'm getting older, getting a little bit heavy. So that's actually on the agenda right now, is to, maybe shed 20 or 30 pounds and see if that helps. Back in the summer, I did get a wheelchair, finally. I probably got a wheelchair a few years too late. I was doing a lot of sitting in the car and waiting for Joy, as she was doing a lot of things without me. But I finally did get a wheelchair back in the summer. Part of it was because of funding. Funding in Canada is a strange thing for wheelchairs. The government sort of dictates, in a sense, if they think you're disabled enough. And for me, it's kind of a gray area. I can get out of my house fine. Basically, the government wants you completely paralyzed or housebound before they want to foot the bill. Now, the way that funding works for a wheelchair like this is the government basically pays for 75% of mobility devices that are deemed to be necessary. In my case, what they suggested that I need and what I actually felt that I needed and wanted were totally different. So in my case, what I had to do was get fitted for the wheelchair through a physiotherapist or occupational therapist. That was done privately. I just paid a private practitioner to do that. I didn't really want to wait the 2 years that the hospital takes to get around to doing that. And then once that was done, we met with the person at a wheelchair store, and we decided what we want. We picked our options. We came up with a price. And because it was a bit up in the air as to whether I would get funding for it or not, we did have to pay the entire thing up front with cash, and then wait to see if funding did come through. Thankfully, in my case, some funding did come through, not the entire 75%, because again, it's 75% of what the government thinks that I need, not what I actually ordered. So when it all shook down, we probably got back 45 to 50% from the government, and then Joy's insurance was able to pick up a little bit. So out of pocket was still a few $1,000s, but not nearly as bad as it could have been. I don't think people realize, when you see someone in a wheelchair, if it's a reasonably nice wheelchair and you see them propelling themselves, a chair like that's pretty expensive. I don't think people have any idea, really. When I tell them how much money my chair costs, people are amazed. A good custom wheelchair that fits properly, that works for what I need it to work for, is in the $5,000 to $10,000 range. So I know a lot of people were looking at it thinking maybe it was $500. When I tell them it was more, that tends to surprise a lot of people, but that's how much it costs.